It's about that time of day again. Welcome back to Nightly Newsletter, boys and girls. Joseph James here. It's Tuesday evening, July 12th, 2016. Markets are moving very well this second week of the month of July. London, U.S., and Asian sessions all filled with reliable trading opportunities this week so far. We've got no reason to think this week's going to slow down here tomorrow. Crude oil and the S&P are bullish, while gold and euro are bearish going into Wednesday's session. Got a great newsletter in store for you guys and gals. Hope you had a great session today. Another big day ahead of us tomorrow. Before we jump into the schedule for tomorrow, look at some charts here and put together the strategies for tomorrow. I do want to remind you, the only place to watch the full-length version of this newsletter is on our trading blog here at sidewaysmarkets.com. If you're watching the video right now on our YouTube channel, it's wonderful. That is not the full-length version, though, on our YouTube video. Check the link. There's a link in the description of the YouTube video. Follow that link, and then we'll take you over here to our trading blog at Sideways Markets. While you're here watching the full-length version, don't forget to come out and join me on a free pass. If you're not an advanced member here at School of Trade, I get a free pass for you to come out and test drive the trade room with me. In the lower left-hand corner, please remember to register as a member of our mailing list. Promise no spam. Just every evening, I'll send you an email when the nightly newsletter is ready to be watched. Also, below tonight's video on the blog, you'll see a very easy-to-find link there to download all the charts you see me using in tonight's video. You can have all the charts ready on your computer tomorrow morning. And of course, you're going to learn more with me on my free trial than you will anywhere else on the interwebs. I can pretty much guarantee you that. Join the trial membership on the right-hand side, and you'll learn more there in 1 week than anywhere else you can online. And of course, don't forget, on the right-hand side of the website, we have a spot there for our live support button. I'm always here to answer all your questions. If you guys have any questions along the way, I'm standing by to help you guys out. Got a busy evening here tonight. Lots of news for tomorrow. Let's check the schedule here for tonight into tomorrow's session, and then we'll look at some charts here and put together the strategies. First of all, we got a big news number coming out of China tonight. 10 p.m. Eastern Time, trade balance from our good friends in China. That is definitely going to be on the minds of the traders in the Asian session, and then most likely will have an impact into tomorrow morning's London session. We're going to London tomorrow. We got a lot of news in London here. We got the CPI from Italy. We got the industrial production from the EU. Two big news reports tomorrow, 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. That's going to keep us on our toes tomorrow morning in the London session. Then, of course, going into the U.S. session, we, of course, have 8:30 a.m. We got the import and export prices tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock, the BOC, the Bank of Canada announcement tomorrow morning. Don't forget, news from Canada oftentimes will move the dial for crude oil futures. Keep an eye on that news report tomorrow morning if you're a crude trader. And then, of course, don't forget, an even bigger event tomorrow for crude traders is the petroleum status report at 10:30 before we hit the lunchtime session and then into the afternoon for Beige Book, the Treasury budget, and then tomorrow night we get the labor force survey from our friends in Australia. So really most important thing here tonight in London, or I should say Asia going to London, you got the merchandise trade out of China, and then of course the 5 a.m. industrial production out of the EU. Those will be the two big reports tomorrow morning, or should I say this evening in Asia and early tomorrow in London. And then really the big news reports tomorrow are going to be at 10 o'clock and 10:30 a.m. You get the Bank of Canada at 10 a.m. That news report at 8:30 is not going to be that big of a deal. I would imagine, though, 10 a.m. is going to be a big time tomorrow morning. And then get to that quickly, because then you got the 10:30 inventory report tomorrow morning for all the crude traders. Don't forget, if you're trading crude with us tomorrow in the trade room, don't forget, whenever we have inventories, it's going to be an early in and then early out to lunch. Right now, we want to be careful tomorrow. Be aware with 10:30 news, anything after 10:15, between 10:15 and 10:40, 10:45 tomorrow will be considered gambling for the oil futures market, just because of that massive volatility that we see around the inventory report. So either get to it early or get to it after 10:45 tomorrow on inventory day for crude. And then again, tomorrow afternoon, watch out for the Beige Book and the Treasury budget at 2 p.m. And then we'll talk about the labor force survey tomorrow morning at 9:30 p.m. for the Asian session tomorrow evening, right? So again, Asian session, London session news tomorrow, mid-morning, late morning news for the U.S. session, and again, crude, careful around that 10:30 news report tomorrow. And don't forget, we'll be doing it together with all of our students in the trade room tomorrow morning, live and real time. Let's go crude, S&P, gold, and we'll wrap it up with the euro. Crude is bullish and trading at the low of a wedge this evening with a target up at the measured move. The bulls had control for the entire session today with 2 legs up and a bull wedge, which may end up widening out to become a bull spiking channel tomorrow. The wedge tells us the bulls we'll be looking for traps at prior swings and gives us a target up at 46.93 as well as 47.89, which just so happens to line up with the double up target at 47.97. The bulls haven't completed their measured move yet, so we assume that will be the main objective before we see a 2-legged correction and another opportunity for the bulls to complete the measured move or the move up to that wedge target at 47.89. The sellers don't have many options at this point. If you're a bear right now, the only reliable selling opportunity will be after a successful breakout pullback and hold below the battle zone at 46.02, and even then they may have trouble holding it below the battle zone because we can assume that a lot of buyers will still be interested in this market as far back as 45, 46 tomorrow. And don't forget, all this of course is going to have to fit in and around that inventory report that we see tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Got a bunch of really important clues on this chart right now. I think the most important clue is going to be this wedge. The wedge fits really, really well. And of course, we talked about this last night here on the newsletter. Don't forget to watch every evening because we tend to go over topics repeatedly here on this video. We have the bull wedge. That bull wedge definitely gives us a target back up at the high. That's the short-term target. And the long-term target for the wedge will be up at the vertex of those trend lines, up around that 47.89. Now that seems like a pretty decent target for tomorrow. We have inventories, of course, which may throw some fuel on the fire, right? Yeah, pun intended. And don't forget, we got the big wedge target today filled on gold. Big runner to the downside on gold today as well. So, don't count out those big wedge targets. So a good example on gold today. We talked about last night in the newsletter, and tomorrow up there around that 47.89, 47.97 area, which also lines up with the double up from that A to B leg earlier in today's session. This may also become a spiking channel, right? This may also become a spiking channel. These wedges are, as it pulls back here, usually when you draw a spiking channel, you usually get the first high, then the pullback, then the second high, and that will typically give you the 2 highs here. That will typically give you what you need to find that spike and channel. So it may widen out to a spiking channel, and that spiking channel does line up nicely with the battle zone here at 46.20 to 46.02. That 46.02 level is a critical spot here for the sellers. What else do we have to worry about tomorrow? We do have some relatively important resistance here at 46.77. The Tuesday evening API number at 4:30 p.m., right, Tuesday afternoon, I guess you would say, at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. We get the API number. We, of course, teach all of our students how to use that news report to find support and resistance for the following day, and that news resistance is at 46.77. We'll be trading with that level as, again, it's not going to be the most important, but it's one of those environments you definitely don't want to be buying into as a scalper tomorrow. Now, with that said, we assume the buyers here, well, we have to assume the buyers definitely have control right now. We know that right now buyers will be looking to buy this dip down to low, that spiking channel, looking for seller failure inside of the battle zone at 46.20. As this price goes lower, this is really where the sellers will have their opportunity to get short here. But again, be careful though, because we assume that as far as this thing pulls back here, it may just be winding up into a nice big dip ahead of that inventory report tomorrow. We'll have to wait and see what this says tomorrow around the news time. We definitely know this is a bull market right now though, so buyers looking to buy the dips right at support. They're looking to buy the battle zone, and again, this is where the sellers will get a chance to sink their teeth into down to that 45, 46, but watch out because that's where a seller failure will have buyers looking to buy more. If you can continue below that 45, 46, then of course the big old target will be down here at the low of day. Sorry about that, missed that low there. Down there at 44.51 tomorrow. As we go higher here right now, just going to be careful about buying into the high right now. That'll be the biggest challenge here for the bulls. The bulls would really love to see this price pull back, seller failure, and then bust this thing higher here back to that wedge target, back up to that measured move. If we can get to that measured move, don't forget, that's a market objective. When we get to a market objective, we expect to see profit taking, bargain hunting, a two-legged correction before we go back up once again. We call that the measured move. In this case, measured move, double top, and then of course the run up to possibly, right, measured move, two-legged correction, back to an area of support, seller failure, and then back up we go. Now with the target back up to the measured move. Again, measured move will act as resistance, up, two legs correction, back up to that measured move high. Then where do we go from here? Do we go to the wedge target, or do we look for a deeper correction and then back up again? It's a bull market until proven otherwise, and right now the bulls have full control here. Sellers got to be careful. Really, in my opinion, sellers right now really won't get a chance here to sell until we can get below that battle zone, or if we can get up to that measured move. But even then, you can't really sell into that. You got to wait for that double top into the measured move, just like we saw today on crude oil futures, into that triple measured move up that we saw in the trade room today, and then lower low, right, we can get that push back down. So be very, very careful right now if you're a seller. And of course, remember, we get inventory report tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. So even if this thing really dips down here, again, we may just be seeing this thing for a deep pullback ahead of tomorrow's inventory report. And again, sellers get to it quickly here, and then again below that low. But be aware that may just be one big pullback here. Definitely have some short-term selling opportunities below 46 down to 45, 46. But again, we'll have to wait and see where that news comes out tomorrow morning. If we go higher here, just make sure you're not buying into that wedge resistance up at 46.93. Don't buy into the measured move, and look for that two-legged pullback after we achieve the measured move tomorrow for another shot for the buyers. Rinse and repeat here on the S&P. The S&P is very, very similar to crude oil. It definitely has a little bit better look as a spiking channel than the wedge, but these are very, very similar charts tonight. E-mini S&P is bullish and trading at the low of a spiking channel this evening, with the target up at the measured move tomorrow. The bulls had control for the entire session today, with two strong legs higher that could easily be defined as a wedge or a spiking channel. I think spiking channel fits better personally, with a pending measured move target still left untested overhead at 55, we'll say 54, 97, 55 even. The bulls completed the double up target at 48, right? Double ups, of course, are market objectives, right? So we got the market objective there at 48, 21.48, and now they have another shot going back to retest the highs after the typical two-legged correction off, right, back to the low of that spiking channel. Buyers will be looking for opportunities using pullbacks and seller failures on the way back to the highs, and then up to, of course, the measured move and wedge target overhead. And we can assume that the deep pullback will also be a buying opportunity as far down as 38.25 tomorrow. Sellers have two windows of opportunity below both of those battle zones, right? Below 42.50 and below 36.5, with the target back at the low of day. This is a good example here now where we have both the bull wedge and the bull spiking channel. Again, if I had to guess right now, I would say the bull spiking channel is a little bit more reliable, but, potato, potato, I think they both will make sense here right now. Bull spiking channel, as you can see here, nice spike up. And again, most often when you see a spiking channel, you don't really know the spiking channel's there. Well, the spike up gives you a very good heads up, but you really don't know where that channel is until you get that second high. Once you have that second high, then you can go out, find that spiking channel, and surprise, surprise, right, we're finding support there right now. That's what leads me to believe here that this, of course, is more reliable as a spiking channel, and then, of course, that means we're looking for rotation back up to the high of that channel. Don't forget, spiking channels are always telling us, buy those dips, buy those dips. So even if this price pulls back a little bit further, we get the battle zone here below the 44, seller failure, and right back up again. Don't forget also, when it comes to spiking channels, the first three, we've got one, we have two, we have three, so there's still plenty of time here right now for the buyers to buy the low of this spiking channel if they're going to rotate back up, we're going to know right away here tonight if this is the spike in channel, because it will complete its rotation back up not only to the wedge target there at 49 even, but also up to the high of that channel and possibly up to that measured move. Next up, of course, is the wedge. The wedge also has some valor here today, right? It definitely has some merit here tonight. As you can see, the wedge definitely was using, it appears, right? They were using the low of that wedge as resistance. That definitely tells me that that wedge is there.